Ongoing US-Israel conflict with Iran, has entered 13th day, marked by intensive strikes, ship attacks near the Strait of Hormuz, and significant civilian casualties. The conflict, which escalated following earlier 12-day war in June 2025, has resulted in over 1,300 civilian casualties, and yet it is unabated. Apart from that, the world economy has also been affected, with price of crude oil jumping to over $100, and that of course has affected so many countries, with price of petrol, that is fuel, going up. In Nigeria, it's over 1,000 naira now, and the US-Iran war seems not to have an end in sight. So a lot of people out there are calling on the two countries to subpedal, go to the round table, dialogue, and resolve their differences, so that there can be enough peace in the entire world. On the program this afternoon, I'm being joined by a lecturer in the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Olabisi Onabanjo University, and that's Mr. Seun Shoile. Good afternoon, Mr. Shoile. Hello? Hello, Mr. Shoile. Good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. Good to be here.
All right. So, what do you make of the US-Israel attacks on Iran? It has entered the 13th day, today March 12th, yet there is no end in sight. What do you make out of that?
It's quite unfortunate that we have found ourselves in a crisis situation. It's a crisis that is happening in the Far East, that is several thousands of kilometers away. It's affecting the way we live our lives today. It simply points to the connectivity of the world, the interconnectedness of the international system, that event on the lives of people living several thousands of kilometers away from the scene of action. And that is what we have found ourselves. Since the present escalation began on 28 February 2026, when the United States and Israel launched coordinated attacks on Iranian military, report as Operation Lion Claw, or SEQ, as it is being widely referred to in the Americas. We have seen the futility of war, and more importantly, the fact that it is worsening every day makes it a very, very incident of concern to everyone around the world.
All right, now, the last time it was Venezuela that America invaded and, of course, picked their president, and the entire world stood against that, condemned the move. But now, America is also attacking Iran. Is America not biting more than it can chew?
Obviously so, because this attack, I will tell you, will have caught many analysts unaware, because it was, even though it has always been in the offing, it has always been predicted, it has always been, here and there being speculated, but the manner with which this present attack was carried out simply showed that President Trump, actions and plans is more on surprising people. Just the same way we woke up and heard that the president of Venezuela has been kidnapped or captured, and and it has a whole lot of implications for what we call sovereignty, for what we call norm-based international system, where we have international law guiding the behaviors of states. So if you ask me directly, it is obvious that America is fighting more than it can show, and it will take no time for the American then to lose popularity if just not taken.
All right. So where is the role of the G5 nations, of course, of which America is even part of it, and ultimately, the role of the United Nations that was formed in 1945 to mediate in conflict situations of this nature, and yet nothing as tangible has been done up till now. And the entire globe is also feeling the effect of these attacks, not only in Iran. There is a report that about 1,300 civilian casualties have been recorded. So where is the role of the G5 nations and of course the United Nations as well?
You see, these groupings, G7, G5, is just like a club, an association that has been formed. See, what we are seeing, I've always said this, what we are seeing is the prevalence of power, the fact that only might is right, and that the international system can be likened to the jungle, where only your power determines what you take, all right? So it is a strong animal like the lion who takes the largest share, and that's why we call it the lion's share. You know, it's also the situation that can be likened to what happens in the wide ocean, where the big fish eat up the small ones, and the small ones are left with nothing to eat. So the reality that we are confronted with is the reality of power. And so G5 and the United Nations are only operating on goodwill. For example, the United Nations does not have a standing army. It will have to rely on strong nations to contribute or to bring together their armies to carry out the resolution of the United Nations. Now, the United Nations that you are referring to, the operation is being carried out by the United Nations Security Council. And the singular most powerful and strongest country, economically, militarily, and otherwise, is in this international crisis. So how then the operation that rely heavily on the support, military and otherwise, of the United States of America to carry out its operation operate when the supposed policeman is the one carrying out the operation. And that is the problem that we have found ourselves in. You are talking about G5. Look at countries like UK, the United Kingdom, and Britain. If you have been following their parliamentary discussion, you will have seen how timid the Prime Minister is, you know, in trying to determine whether to join forces or not. And that is to show clearly the current power status of most of these G5 that we're talking about. Clearly, America has the political will, has the military supremacy or superiority to do anything that it wants within the current international system as it is currently configured. And everybody that is not pleased will only have to murmur and go to bed.
So does it then mean that there is no nation or there is no group that could really ask America or bring America to our news to stop this unbridled invasion attacks, as it were, on other nations of the world? Because if you look at it now, it's affecting the economy, particularly the oil and gas industry, in which the price of crude oil has gone beyond $100. At the time it got to $110, but now I think it's descending, is declining now. But be that as it may, it doesn't mean that America is larger than life, that no nation, no group can tame the country.
Because the truth of the matter is that as it is, we can only say that the strongest man in the room is approach to international politics. But obviously, it is very clear that this present campaign is ill-conceived. I mean, people have been talking about what constitutes the objective of America in this war. What exactly is the objective, the strategy, and all of that is involved in this war? And it seems as if it was just a war of ego. And it's obvious that this is a strategic error. It's a strategic mistake, because the idea probably was what had tied Russia down in Ukraine, where they only wish to carry out a police action and bring Ukraine to peace in no time. Now, since 2022, we are here. They are still on it. And I think the initial horror of regime change that President Donald Trump, had on when he started this current campaign is already fizzling out of sight, because even after 13 days of serious combat and bombardment, the Iranian theocracy is still very much intact. And now they isolated Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And so what we are going to see is that this conflict will go on for a very, very long time, and we just hope that reason will prevail and diplomacy will carry the day, because in the final analysis we may have to conclude that while military exchanges will dominate the headline for days to come, it is ultimately diplomatic engagement that will determine whether the crisis expands or stabilizes. And this is what we are seeing. And we expect. So historically, even the most intense geopolitical rivalries have eventually required negotiation, mediation, and international pressure to prevent catastrophic escalation. And that is what I think will ultimately end this present campaign. We will have to go back to the round table with nobody clearly claiming victory at the end of the day.
Okay, well, Mr. Shure, a lot will have been destroyed. Lives lost so far, according to the record out there in the public space, is that about 1,300 civilian casualties have been recorded, and so many structures, so many military bases have been destroyed, which of course will require humongous amount of money to rebuild them in the future. But where I'm going is this: the Secretary of State in America did say that America has spent about $11 billion on this particular recent attacks on Iran and the likes of that. Now, if that is the question, if that is the position, where lies the position of the legislature in America? America is practicing democracy. Did they give President Trump the go-ahead to carry out these attacks, or it is just out of his own executive order that he believes that he can execute such? And that is why we are seeing all this. And if that be the case, what has been the position of the legislature so far to caution him, or perhaps to restrain him from further attacks on Iran?
You see, the kind of presidential system that is practiced in America is that the president is larger than life. He has the power of life and death, and as far as that system is concerned, he is in charge, both politically and strategically. So, and that is the power that President Trump has been exploiting in carrying out this war. Now, according to the American political system and the structure, the House, the legislative arm, the Congress, has the power of the purse, which it can use to rein in the president if it's becoming irrational and it's becoming uncontrollable. And of course, the House is already taking steps in using that to rein in the president. But then, you see, it will take some time before the current, political resources, military resources that is available to the president, it will take some time for that to be exhausted before they will need they will need more money to be allocated by the Congress. And so that is keeping the president going in this current campaign.
Okay.
This particular attack is already generating a lot of horror within the American political firmament, and political players like the opposition have been speaking out on the untenability of the current campaign. It is obvious that the president is simply relying on his executive power to carry out this campaign, and it is alone in this struggle.
Okay, now let's look at the world economy. The oil and gas industry has really been affected by this war between US and Iran, so much that the price of the crude oil as it stands today is around $100 per barrel. And of course, that has affected a lot of nations, of which Nigeria is not exempted. Today in Nigeria, a liter of oil sells between 1,100 and 1,300 per liter. And a lot of people begin to wonder, why would that affect Nigeria? Why would that affect other nations? Since Nigeria has our own oil wells, we have our crude oil that we can refine, we have private refinery in Nigeria, they can do that, and yet this is affecting world economy, is affecting Nigeria as well. What do we make out of that?
There's no doubt that one of the most important implications of the current crisis lies in its economic impact. The Persian Gulf remains one of the most vital regions for global energy supply, and any serious disruption to either shipping routes, particularly as it has to do with, to global oil prices upward, and that's exactly what we are seeing. And in that situation, we will have such development will have ripple effects on inflation, on transport costs, and general economic instability worldwide. And this is even more so with African economies such as Nigeria, where we live on petroleum products. But back to the question of why do we have so much of that effect here, since we have oil that we drill, and probably we have refinery that is also okay. Now, but the point is that the first thing to note is that oil is internationally. So oil is an international product that has international price. So there is no local price to oil. So if the oil prices pushes forward out on the international scene, what happens is that it has a ripple effect on individual national economy, and that's exactly what we are seeing. Immune from this shocks if we had allowed Dangote to operate what can I call this one now? These advantages you give to local economy, local industries, for them to, but you knew what happened. You knew how the guy had to fight very hard, tooth and nail to safeguard his own investment in this country. And for the most part, he himself is even sourcing crude oil internationally. So there is no way he can be paying dollars locally and to even source internationally, and then we expect him to be selling at local price. So it is. We are yet to understand how the international oil prices or oil politics play. So we are still very much playing the game as it is being played internationally. So we expect that any shock to the prices of oil internationally will have a severe effect on us locally or domestically, and that is exactly what we are seeing playing out. Some people are even projecting that if the current crisis is not arrested in good time, what will happen is that we may be going towards having that price as high as 2,000 naira per liter, and that would be catastrophic for the economy.
We pray that won't get to that level, that necessary authorities are those that feel that this should escalate beyond this level will intervene and make sure that we have the right dialogue that can bring down these attacks in the Middle East, so that the world economy could then be on the rise for the entire globe to enjoy what they're supposed to enjoy. Because most economies all over the world rely heavily on crude oil, and that is why it's affecting most nations all over the world today. But now, let's look at the movement of Israel. Is that what has Israel gotten to do with this war between US and Iran? Why is Israel also joining forces with US to attack Iran?
Well, the conflict is actually not U.S. conflict. Right way to conceive this current conflict is not even U.S.-Iran conflict. It is Israel-Iran conflict. U.S. is just taking sides with so it's not even U.S. that is the main matter, and that's why if you look at that the time because this war is tagged. I think it's called Operation Lion's Roar.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Operation Lion's Roar is actually now, and I think we have discussed this in when we trace the historical, development of this interaction is and Iran. What happened? We had revolution in 19 that brought the Islamists to government, which now turned the whole of the system into a theocracy. It was at that moment that the Iranian leaders proclaimed the death to Israel, and it was in that time this current problem has started. So what we are witnessing today is something that can be traced back to even the creation of Israel, up to the time we have the Islamic revolution in Iran. So it's a problem that is and Iraq they even gave a particular time and installed a war somewhere in Tehran where they are seeing the countdown to the destruction of Israel. There is no country that will go and sit like a lame dog watching such danger coming to them, particularly when they now know that these guys are already putting up together technologies to creating bombs and other dangerous weapons that can be used to wipe them out. And so it is from this angle that we have to continue to perceive and analyze the current escalation.
Okay, now Iran has said that they will consider ending the war if it is legitimate rights are recognized, and of course reparations are paid and firm international guarantees prevent future attacks. Do you see all these likely to happen that will put an end to this war, the current attacks that we are witnessing?
The network broke at some point, so I didn't get what you...
Oh, okay, all right. I said Iran has said that...
Can you please come over the phone?
Okay, Iran has said that they will consider ending the war if its legitimate rights are recognized, one, reparations are paid, and firm international guarantees prevent future attacks. So they have hinged the ending of this war on those three factors. Do you see that happening in the shortest possible time?
Well, as I see today, it is not Iran that will give the conditions for ending this war. You can't be at the receiving end of a particular crisis and you are still the one bringing conditions to ending that crisis. The little we know of how the international system operates is such that if they go that route, it means that this current crisis will escalate and will linger for quite a long time. There is nobody who is having a higher hand in a conflict that will agree, except the other one comes on his nails to request for a ceasefire. So Iran is currently grandstanding, and the reason why they are doing that is because they know that give or take, up till now, America has not succeeded in its initial plan, in its initial objective. What America thought would happen within a very short time was a regime change. But it's now very obvious to them that the regime in Iran is not what obtained in Iraq. It was easy to take Saddam Hussein out, and the whole of the country went into turmoil, and the whole disorganization and all of that. But for a theocracy like Iran, the structures are there. even if you take the first, second, and third generation of leaders, there are still the hierarchy of leaders that will come on board and continue the struggle. So, as it is, I hope that this does not come to pass. But the right thing, the signal that is being seen is that this war will long time until probably change, and I don't see that happening in a short time.
Oh, okay. There is this information emerging from the media space that UN has called for a halt to attacks, but the Security Council adopted a resolution urging Iran to stop attacks on Gulf states without mentioning US or Israel strikes on Iran. Isn't that another concern to the entire world, that why UN is trying to mediate to bring this to an end? They have only asked Iran to stop attacks on Gulf states, whereas they didn't make any call or any appeal to either US or Israel to also stop attacking Iran. What do you make out of that? Is that not an injustice, so to say?
Well, what I can pick from what you have said is that, you see, UN is trying to prevent an escalation of that conflict. Now, because by launching attack on the Gulf state, the first reaction of Iran was to launch attack on the US bases in those countries, Kuwait, Bahrain, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and all of that. Now, if those countries will respond, because you can't be attacking, you cannot be claiming to be attacking US bases in those countries and pretend that you are not attacking those countries. The response of this country, if it had come violently, would have, doused the whole world, because the conflict will have gone out of hand. So what the UN is doing is simply to try to curb the escalation of that crisis, so that other Gulf countries who are foreign state to Iran will not come together and take the thing upon themselves to attack. But the truth of the matter is that even these Gulf states are being adversely affected by this current conflict, and I can tell you, they wish that this conflict had not even started in the first place.
But you will agree, Mr. Shoyede, that if US and Israel also stop attacks on Iran, Iran won't also make any move of attacking US bases in countries that are very close to them. So I think UN also has to be brave enough to also tell US and Israel to stop similar attacks on Iran. Because if Iran should just fold its arms and not do anything again, then whereas US and Israel keep attacking them, so where lies the international diplomacy here? That they have to also cease fire in a way so that all of them can come to the round table and discuss the way out.
Well, that's the disposition of the United Nations still speaks to the power configuration of the international system. All right? Laws are made for the weaklings. Laws are not made for the most powerful people. We have seen that play out in Nigeria. When you hear that a particular law is enforced, you know that the VIPs are exempted from it. So it is the weak that the laws are made for. So the law are not made for the powerful. That's exactly what you are. And now, if you say the United Nations, we look at the United Nations as if it's one country on its own, or it's one organization that is, although in theory it's supposed to be supranational, it's supposed to be above nation states, but we must also remember that nation states are also members of these organizations, and they are the one who determine how the thing goes, particularly the most powerful one. And those are the ones, the most powerful is the one that is currently, embroiled in this current crisis. And so what do you expect the United Nations to do? Some conciliatory, rhetoric, and also to try to caution the one that is weak in the present milieu. And that's exactly what you have done.
Okay, now let's look at the casualties. Over 1,300 civilians deaths have been reported, and of course, it is the 13th day of this crisis between U.S., Israel, and of course with Iran. Yet no end in sight, as it were. If we continue to record more casualties like this, human lives are involved. So who and who are they going to rule over? Who and who are they going to govern at the end of the day? Who and who are they going to govern over if the war continues to escalate and there is no end in sight?
Well, that is why experts will always say that it is better to judge than to war. It also speaks to the supremacy of diplomacy. Unfortunately, with the current crisis, President Donald Trump has given an ample opportunity for the Democrats to attack him and to show that even though they seem to be slow, people thought that they were slow and that they were not engaging the international system, head on because of their, the way they use diplomacy and all of that to settle issues and all of that. You see, but now we have now seen the futility of war. If we say diplomacy has not been working, the point now is as war works, because now all of us, including myself and you, are now bearing the we should be talking about at the moment. As popular as President Donald Trump of America thinks within his country, I think this one would be a major flaw of his administration.
Okay, now let us look at two key other sectors of the economy that have been greatly impacted by this war. That's talking about the aviation industry and of course the what I would call entertainment slash football industry, because that U.S. is one of the three nations that will be hosting the next edition of the World Cup. U.S., Mexico, and Canada. And of course, the aviation industry, a lot of airline operators have cancelled their flights. It has affected a lot of people who are to go for one business or the other in the Middle East or out of the Middle East to other parts of the world. Now, and again, Iran has said they are not going to participate in the forthcoming World Cup between U.S., Canada, and Mexico. If we look at that critically, are we not going to likely to see more countries that may want to join forces with Iran and also tell FIFA that they are not going to be part of the World Cup? Hello?
In June, I should think, and I think we still have a lot of days. If we can...
It is less than 100 days.
If reason can prevail and diplomacy...
Sorry, Mr. Shole, the World Cup is less than 100 days now. And of course, this is the peak of preparations for it. And Iran has already pulled out. And we might likely, or do you think other nations, if they should come up and also join forces with Iran, sympathize with Iran and say they are not going to the World Cup, will that not have a negative impact on America, Mexico, and of course Canada? And the FIFA, the World Football Governing Body as a whole.
The truth of the matter is that in this current campaign, you see, I don't think Iran has a lot of sympathizers, to be honest with you. Because even though the Iranians themselves, in the Afro, have been marching, thanking Donald Trump about this matter. We are just looking at the morality of the issue. It does not occur to me personally that Iran has a lot of sympathizers in terms of nation states. I'm not talking of individuals now. And to that extent, it will be difficult to think that the World Cup will not hold because of this current crisis. In any case, the theater of war is several thousands of kilometers away from the venue, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. All right? So it's two different worlds. I mean, they are worlds apart. All right? But the only thing is that while we may have individuals who continue to demonstrate, criticize, all right, and malign the United States with regard to its current efforts or the campaign or in Iran, the truth of the matter is that everybody, when the time comes, everybody will head to the World Cup, to have it here. And that's my honest opinion.
Okay, what about the aviation industry, which has affected, in this area, it has affected so many businesses, people having to travel from Middle East outside that place to another other parts of the world, and even people that want to go into Middle East to have one business or the other to transact. And now that it is happening, a lot of flights have been cancelled. A lot of people couldn't leave the Middle East, as it were, to go outside the
place. I think definitely, because since we are running on oil, which is from oil that we get aviation fuel and all of those things, that is central to check the number of the participation, all right?
Hello?
And of course, it's going to affect the commerce, the hospitality, the cost of hospitality, the cost of transportation, and all of those things around, all of those things moving around that, or moving into that competition. But then, it's not sufficient enough to really affect that competition. I may be wrong, but events in the next few days will determine whether that opinion is correct or not. But I don't think that, because from what I know of the United States and its way of thinking, the national way of thinking for that of that country, America can quickly find a political solution to this crisis just because of that World Cup. And we're going to be seeing that in the next few days. That's what I think. If this thing lingers, it then may mean that Iran will be one that will set the pace for how that conflict will eventually get settled. But the events in the next few days will determine whether these positions or these opinions are correct or not.
Okay, now, the Gulf countries that is talking about, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Bahrain, UAE, United Arab Emirates, of course, Kuwait and Qatar, have had a share of these attacks because Iran felt that since America is attacking them, they should also target their bases in those countries, and which, of course, they have carried out to a large extent. Now, these countries have had their own share, and these are countries that ordinarily one would have thought they should team up with Iran and give them the necessary support, because they are in the same Middle East, they belong to the same bloc, and yet they are not doing much, and it's affecting those countries, those Gulf countries. Yeah, if this, peradventure, if this U.S.-Iran war ends, do you foresee, or does opinion out there really believe that there could be another round of war that can come up between Iran and any of these Gulf countries? Because definitely, at a point in time while they are carrying out their attacks, they might miss their target. They might want to attack a U.S. base or something like that in any of these Gulf countries, and they might miss their target and also record casualties. Would that not also bring about another round of attacks or war or crisis between Iran and any of these Gulf countries?
Now, clearly, there's a perspective that I really want to bring into this matter before I answer that question, because it's very, very important. Now, one thing that many people don't really understand about another thing about this current crisis is that President Donald Trump, and it's not something that you find easily on the media, but if you have been following the way President Donald Trump has been posting on his Truth Social, his social media handle, you will discover that for months he has been warning the Iranian government that he knows exactly where their former president, the former supreme leader was. He had mentioned this thing for about 4-5 before the current attack, he has always been mentioning that intelligence has discovered where he was, and that there was a time he posted that he had just saved the supreme leader from being assassinated. Now, if you construct this thing properly, you will discover that this crisis would have happened far before now. It was President Donald Trump who had been trying to, in fact, it was when he saw that, and he was telling the Iranian government to come quickly to a deal. Let us run quickly to a deal. Let's get to a deal. But Israel and some of these Gulf countries are really become pissed off by the enormous power and the military latitude of Iran in the Middle East. For him to give his support for the current for the strike that started on the 28th of February. Now, on the issue of the escalation of the war, even if this one, eventually gets settled, there is no Gulf country, there is no place Iran in any kind of brawl, in any kind of dispute, in any kind of crisis. Iran is not a small country. Iran is solid militarily. Like the coalition of US and Israel that can bring it out the way they are doing. So whatever will have been the end result of the current crisis, civilians or on top any of those countries is just an incident of war.
Okay, now
I can assure you, once this one is settled, nothing can come from this state.
Okay, on a final note, just in one sentence. Now, US has gotten a target. They have, at least we have it in the media that Islamic leader has been killed. And so, why can't US then backpedal from this for further attacks against Iran?
Well, if you follow the trajectory, I mean, the attacks are reduced drastically, and I expect that it does not escalate in the near future. I mean, today is day 13. We have not had so much of attack, just like it has been last week and early this week. So I should think that we are going to be looking at the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has been appointed, and I'm sure that the strategies around this war on the side of Israel and the US will have been putting heads together to see what is the way out of this. It is obvious that they will have to work with the new supreme leader if it's not going to be taken, and if they want an easy and quick resolution to the current crisis.
All right, thank you, Mr. Seun Shoile, a lecturer in the Department of History and Diplomatic Studies, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowe, in Ogun State, Nigeria. We want to appreciate you for finding time to join us on the program and to provide
Thank you so much for having me.
And for providing those information that will have been able to enlighten the general public the more about the ongoing US-Israel attacks on Iran. That's how we wrap it up on the show. That's where I can see you next week, God willing. Keep flourishing in the peace of the Most High. Bye for now.